Welcome to the very first episode of Barely Shipping. Now, this will be a faster episode and more of an introduction into what this podcast is and why you should listen. So my name's Nathan Thompson, and I build AI systems to help lean B2B teams keep up and surpass their larger competition. I wrote everything that I learned over the past 3 years in a book called Pipes Before Chocolate. It's totally free. Find it in the link. It's like 170 pages. And it's got a lot of great information on how AI can serve as the connective tissue between all of your go-to-market functions. Now, I started with AI back in 2022 with early access to Copy.ai, and at this time it was just a ChatGPT wrapper. It was working on, I believe, GPT 2.5. Wasn't very good, wasn't very sophisticated, but at the time it felt revolutionary. Now, in 2023, I ended up working for Copy.ai, and this was right before they came out with workflows. So for the first 6 months, I was using chat to figure out how can we make really high quality blog posts with this. It was 3.5 at that time, this kind of robotic sounding tool. And then when we came out with workflows in mid 2023, everything changed. And I realized we could build systems and rebuild our go-to-market functions across every department in a way that was truly meaningful. Then over the past 3 years, you've noticed that attitudes and models have changed. So people have started to realize just this past year how powerful AI is. We're seeing it in almost every conversation across LinkedIn. We are seeing every team and leadership team especially start mandating the use of AI without giving the proper training on how we should be doing that. At the same time, we have seen models increase their capacity, not only for the amount that they can consume, but the amount that they can output at a rate no one could have predicted, and it only seems to be speeding up. So the goal of this comes from that ebook, Pipes Before Chocolate. Now, I know the name is a little bit weird, which is why I'll explain it. Basically, when it was 2023, I realized with workflows that what we were doing was kind of like building a factory line for certain systems. Now, these workflows were not agentic. They were deterministic, which meant that every step of the way I was creating by itself and then chaining it down to build something larger than any one of those steps. It's called prompt chain. What we would end up doing is building, let's say for a blog post, have it go do research as one step, pass all of that research to a next step, but there was no autonomous AI in there. What this forced me to do was take a look at across our marketing function and build out those processes step by step along the way, and then expand that to the larger go-to-market team. And in doing so, I realized that there are two types of systems. You can think of this in terms of factories. And I thought of like Ford factory, where they're just making the same thing over and over and over and over. That Model T Ford with the famous expression, you can have it in any color you want, so long as that color is black. This was different than another type of factory, one of my favorite movies growing up, which is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now I realized that both are factories, but Willy Wonka had more creative inputs, and that led to more creative outputs. But the thing that they shared in common was the systems underneath. In other words, to get the chocolate river, you still had to lay down the pipes. So I set out to write that book, Pipes Before Chocolate, on how we could create those systems as marketers that is the connective tissue for all of your go-to-market motions. And over the past 3 years, I have been refining that back and forth, and I'm now helping other go-to-market teams put those systems into place with something that I call systems-led growth. You'll notice it's not AI-led growth or AI growth. AI is a part of it. Humans are a part of it. But it really comes down to understanding the process and the systems that you need in order to make on-brand, personalized content that hasn't totally sold its soul. So as we go through this podcast, I just want to talk about a few statistics that are just rocking the go-to-market world in 2026. We have 59% of B2B marketers are asked to do more with less, meaning leadership has caught on, but sometimes misunderstand AI as being a magic button. When they say, go replace your team with AI, and it doesn't always work. In fact, we're seeing a lot of cases where it doesn't. 42% of teams have restructured significantly, often meaning they will downsize and then tell the remaining team, you need to not only do what your old team was doing, you need to surpass it in terms of pipeline and goals. You now have an average team running about 25 to 60 marketing tools in some Frankenstack of these outdated tools that have bolted AI on and are not truly AI native. Budgets have fallen flat, 7.7% of revenue, and a lot of teams ended up getting a ChatGPT license and called it a strategy. What they'll do is they'll tell everybody, hey, here's your ChatGPT license. When really what we're seeing is that those employees are writing either disconnected messaging or using their subscription for AI therapy, which I think is really funny. What we are seeing is that people who use tools in their company find incremental growth, but people that build out systems are building structural growth. And those are very different things. So a few things that we did at Copy.ai to prove out a lot of this was our initial SEO sprint wound up going up to around 350,000 organic per month at its height. And when 2024, my mandate was, but we need the right type of traffic because traffic is not our goal. We need pipeline. We need enterprise pipeline. When we went from being a B2C product to a B2B product, we rebuilt the system and drove millions in pipeline over the next 18 months on those systems without a human drafting anything on the website. A human was in the loop, but we purposefully got rid of the fluff and rebuilt systems to make highly personalized and engaging content on our website that drove millions in pipeline without having an ad budget. It was kind of scary to see all that traffic die off, but I had great leadership at the time, and they were more than supportive as long as pipeline went up. And so the goal of all of this is to not just talk about content marketing. It's not just talk about organic SEO. It is to talk about how you as a team can drive organic pipeline, meaning pipeline you're not paying for. You're not spending a bunch of ads and just throwing $50,000 into Google ads or LinkedIn ads. But how do you build a go-to-market system with a limited budget and AI systems with humans in the loop that will grow your pipeline? So there are 4 principles to systems-led growth. The first being systems over prompt. Now, a prompt is a task. A system is a chain. 1 input and 10 outputs with no blank pages. What this gives teams is the ability to build the right systems to move them along faster, but it is not a magic button that will do all of the work for them. And I've seen teams use prompts for task-based tasks, for lack of a better phrase, and all that ends up happening is generic outputs that are disconnected from their actual brand. So the second tenet of this is pipeline over page views. This is really important. Traffic is the easiest metric to grow, and it is the least useful if you are not growing the right traffic, meaning you are not attracting the right people with that content. I've written about this in the past on Substack, but we've seen major SEO tools, not to name names, but Ahrefs and SEMrush, who were in the past generating quite literally millions of page views from keywords that were essentially adult keywords. And that is exactly what you think it means. They would do an SEO audit of an adult website. People would type in the name of that website to Google, and lo and behold, they would land to one of those 2 SEO tools. I can't imagine that was generating a lot of actual pipeline or users. Like Mr. Porn Dude was one of the words that I remember most accurately. Driving hundreds and thousands with that keyword alone. Can't imagine that was bringing actual subscribers. Traffic used to be a lot easier to get, but unless it's the right traffic, it is of no use to B2B teams. So the second tenet is pipeline over page views. Number 3, skeleton crews can win. What I mean by that is smaller teams can operate like much larger teams with the right systems in place. This doesn't mean downsizing your team and replacing everyone with AI. It means restructuring things in a way that get the best out of humans at what humans are meant to do, and to get the best out of AI for what AI can actually do better than humans. A lot of times that's data analysis, fast and accurate drafting, but there are gaps that throughout this podcast we will talk about and uncover. Finally, and the 4th tenet is lived experience and internal data are some of the biggest moats left. AI can take any public information out there and generate an endless amount of content on the back end of it. That's how a lot of teams are using it right now. But when you get into lived experience with real thought leaderships sharing their insights, their learnings from the week, using transcripts to generate content, or proprietary data in terms of how people are using your tool to do better on the market and how to grow their business with your tool, you can take those 2 things, lived experience, proprietary data, you can code them into your AI system, and then you can make really hyper-personalized content that's not going to get pinged by Google. You can't find anything that anywhere else, that is high quality and engaging for the reader. And we are going to talk about how you can marry those 2 things with AI to make some really cool and impactful content that, again, drives pipeline over page views. Now, before we end this quick episode, this little teaser for the podcast, I do want to say this took me over 3 years of learning to build. And I know everybody and their mother is online LinkedIn right now talking about how awesome AI is. The attitudes were not always the same. 2.5 years ago, if I had made this very same message, the attitudes and reception would have been very different, if anybody listens to this at all. But the first version was ugly. And if you are experimenting with AI, you should expect some back and forth, some give and some take to get this correct. I am still finding things that are broken. I am still optimizing every week, but my 2 biggest strengths are stubbornness and optimism. And those 2 together make me realize when I come across a problem that I think we can solve with AI, I tend not to give up until we do. And so we're going to go through all of those processes across all the go-to-market strategies throughout this podcast. Number 2, I don't consider myself a guru or an AI expert at all. I do consider myself an AI systems expert, meaning I know how to build the background knowledge that combines first-party data with third-party information in order to make really high quality and impactful content. But this extends beyond content. It is also content that informs the sales team, the customer success team. Every go-to-market play out there can be built with AI as the connective tissue. That doesn't make me an AI expert. I'm still learning things every week. I'm still following along, and things are moving at a super high pace. So I'm here to share with what I know from experience and nothing more. Finally, when it comes to using AI, you can either build or you can drown. There's almost no middle ground at this point. You can either start building your own AI systems or hire an agency to do it, or you can drown in the experiments that never go through the finish line. Personally, I chose to build. That means you need to have some kind of measurement and an end date. It is a lot safer to keep things as an experiment than it is to actually fully launch something. And so there needs to be some expectation of it's going to be messy, but we're going to keep pushing forward. Now, again, it is my theory that a lot of teams are debating which tools to get. Should we get this tool for this? Should we get that tool for this? But the people that are going to pull forward in the world of AI over the next few years are the people that are going to build systems built on a queryable database that connects all of the go-to-market functions under one umbrella. So in the next episode, I have, we've already released the second episode. It was a great interview with Ramona Cutts. Go check that out if you haven't. She gives some great advice on SEO and AEO. It's fantastic. After that, we are going to talk about the iron triangle, the idea that there's speed, cost, and quality. In the past, you only got to pick 2, but we're going to talk about how AI breaks that triangle, breaks the iron triangle and allows you to build things fast, less expensive, and still high quality without selling your brand's soul to AI is possible, and we are going to talk through that. Feel free to subscribe. I post this on Substack or on YouTube, which then gets sent off to Spotify, but I highly recommend subscribing to the Substack. I have a newsletter there where I will be sharing a lot of the learnings and things that I am building myself, open and for free. It is a forever free Substack, which I think is important as we are starting to see attitudes change around AI, and how marketing teams are starting to use them and being told to use them or to find a new job. Very scary times if you're a marketer, but I do believe that it's going to have a net positive effect. And over the course of this podcast, we'll talk about how. So thank you for checking this out. This is Barely Shipping. I am Nathan Thompson. Again, please go subscribe to Substack, and we'll chat with you soon.